Hey everyone, Alex Tardy here, meteorologist with Weather Echo. We've got another insight for you. We last checked in with a full briefing in early July, and we expected a major full blown monsoon, and it materialized. We also expected a heat wave, and boy, did that materialize. 109 at Salt Lake City, an all time high. So, more of the same? Yes, but not in the same areas. So now we're looking at southwest US. Arizona, Southern California, really heating up this week into the weekend. We're not going to get rid of the monsoon. That pattern stays, but we'll reduce it for a while and then it will return. Let's take a look at some of the highlights here. Okay, we're focused on the western U.S. The benefits of this monsoon and particularly the thunderstorms. The monsoon is not a thunderstorm, but the thunderstorms that come from the moisture that's brought up by the monsoonal flow has suppressed our fire weather conditions, improved them across the Great Basin. Still, outside of that, high fire danger remains. Now, whenever you have heat waves, that exacerbates it because the vegetation gets more stressed, fire danger is high. Now, with this weather pattern, we can still see the ring of fire. We can still see elevated thunderstorms around the periphery of the high pressure center. Now, even within the high pressure center, even though it's going to move over the southwest, we can still see gully washing flash flooding. Now, what really is going to be the focus, though, is the heat wave. The hottest temperatures of the year for places like Phoenix, Vegas, Palm Springs, the Southwest, Death Valley. Really hot temperatures moving into that area. We could see our first 120s in those areas for sure. Okay, what's the month brought us so far? The epicenter, the focus of the hot temperatures have been the northern plains and northern Rockies and northern Great Basin. A continuation, yes, of this past winter. The precipitation has developed across the west in the monsoonal flow as shown here. Now, it's really been cooler than average in the Pacific Northwest and only a little bit warmer than average, so we are just warming up now. This is a major impact developing for the Southwest U.S. And we compare this to not just July or this year, a 30-year average. And speaking of 30-year average, we can compare the past week and really see the monsoon footprint of the showers and thunderstorms that developed from that moisture. Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and look at Texas, separate from that. Gully washers in the hill country there. But look how warm it's been in the northern plains. That's where the heat dome was really focused. Now we're going to shift that heat dome into the southwest. So comparing to normal for one day, 1 week, 1 month, or a year, you can really see the footprint of what is unusual, not normal. Now, predicting the next week to 2 weeks, we see the monsoon takes a break in the lower left-hand corner there. It doesn't go away, but it becomes white. But temperatures really heat up as this heat dome is going to shift into the southwest U.S. So we compare this to a 30-year average. Now, beyond 2 weeks, is that even predictable? Well, we try to predict beyond 2 weeks in the winter. We try to do it in the summer. The summer is actually easier because you tend to have persistent weather patterns like monsoonal flow or maybe a big dome of high pressure or heat wave. Now, we see the monsoon, the green, flare up again in week 2, early to mid-August, but we see persistent heat hang out in the west coast. So we've got both things going on. But typically beyond 2 weeks, storms are not anywhere on the planet. So you're predicting something that doesn't exist. Trying to predict individual thunderstorm clusters beyond 2 weeks, it's difficult to predict 1 day out. This is the weather pattern we're looking at. And take a look at what we mean by the shift of the high pressure or the upper level ridge. We're talking about upper level ridge, a heat dome, not something at the surface, but it's moving from Texas to the southwest. And that's why things are going to really heat up. Look at the kink in the jet stream, the buckling where storms hang out. That's going to draw some tropical remnant moisture into the northwest, but it's also going to keep that monsoonal flow coming up around the upper level ridge. All right. This is a tool surprisingly not used by all meteorologists. This requires a satellite, multiple satellites combined. It's not a weather radar, it's not a weather model, and it's not a requirement to have the sun shining or daylight. You can even see through the clouds. But clearly it shows us where this moisture comes from. This is a snapshot today, July 21. You can see moisture, tropical remnants, is circling off the west coast or East Pacific. You can see the deep monsoon in place in the Colorado River Valley. You can also see that the monsoonal moisture has made it all the way up into Canada. Hey, look, we even have monsoon, but they don't call it that. The Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, that area is active all year whenever there's storms to draw the moisture northward. So you don't need a hurricane or tropical cyclone to have monsoonal moisture, to have mugginess, to have thunderstorms. It can help, but you have this source of tropical moisture that's almost always present, okay? Always present and shifted northward because of the monsoonal flow, bringing moisture all the way up into Canada this time of year. These zones are here. The reason why it's not just subtropical, San Diego subtropical. Is the moisture coming from there? No, it's coming from much further south in latitude. It's coming from the shaded area, the North America monsoon, clearly today and normally comes from the tropical zone. So the same zone produces atmospheric rivers. Okay, this is the weather pattern as we go into late July. This big dome is the hot air sinking, compressing, and warming. And it's going to shift. It's going to choke off the monsoonal flow, push it more towards the west coast. So we'll have to watch the edge of this big dome because that's where you can see thunderstorm activity all along the northern plains into the northeast. Maybe in derecho events, which are typically at night, organized thunderstorms that produce damaging winds. But look at this, it just stays all the way through late July. This is mid-levels of the atmosphere, okay? 15,000 feet, 20,000 feet. This is not where we live. And an actual high pressure area is cold air at the surface, dense, heavy air. This is light, fluffy, hot air. So this is way up in the atmosphere. So it's very misleading when these type of systems are just called high pressures. High pressure actually produces Santa Ana winds, and this is not a Santa Ana wind pattern. Early August, we see it persist, and boy, it sits right over the Four Corners and the Southwest. So extended heat wave through July. Okay, when you talk about a heat wave, you're talking about these heat domes. It's not a new term, but these heat domes are big, massive, hot air masses. So when you're in the hottest part or the center of that, you typically experience the most extreme temperatures. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you found this valuable, including the pro tips. More live information is posted on X and Threads. We do shorter videos on TikTok and YouTube. We posted videos there before the 4th of July, highlighting the all-time high temperatures that were expected in parts of the West and the full-blown active monsoon. Now, with monsoonal moisture, it's important to note that it's not widespread like hot temperatures are. So hot temperatures are more impactful because they affect everyone and everything, and they're widespread everywhere. Yes, some places are hotter and cooler than others. But with monsoonal moisture, it's localized pockets. So you need to check the weather forecast and the weather radar daily. If you're going to hike, not only do you need to worry about hot temperatures and dehydration and heat exhaustion, you need to worry about thunderstorms. It might be sunny where you are and absolutely pouring a couple miles up a mountain or upstream. And that water can travel all the way down to where you are. It's a tricky situation in the monsoon. Most people who don't look at weather radars, it's difficult to understand how it's absolutely pouring at one location with thunder, lightning, and then another location a few miles away, the sun is out. That is the nature of the monsoon beast. Now with heat waves, we have less excuse because heat risk is high everywhere, unless you're in the cool Pacific water or maybe taking a dip in a pool or a lake. So be safe, everyone. Check the latest forecast. Monitor the weather. At least have someone in your group monitoring the weather daily on a regular basis if you're spending time outdoors. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining.